lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Presents. I'm getting lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Presents. Well, I'm lumped up, but I'm okay. It's gonna get lumped up anyway. You better call back the posse. Just getting lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Presents. Getting lumped up with RockerMike and Rob Presents.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of RockerMike and Rob Presents. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Park Dental Care in Richmond Hill, Queens. Rob, what do you think of them?
Oh, they're damn good. Look at these teeth. They do a great job, man. You can have a pretty smile just like me that your mama can still kiss even to today.
It makes your face made for radio even better.
Yeah.
Park Dental Care. They don't hurt, and they take all insurances. All right, everybody. We are on RockerMike and Rob Presents episode once again, and we have a very special two guests tonight. The Penetrators, Syracuse's own The Penetrators.
All right.
Yeah.
We got Jack on the bottom right, and we've got Spike, also known as Eliot, on the bottom left. We'll call you Spike for tonight, okay?
Excellent.
All right. And I'm really happy to have you guys on. This has been in the making for a couple of months now. You guys have been around for a long time. And since basically the mid-'70s, 76 with the punk scene, you guys came up through that. But you guys have been friends since like 8th grade, I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, since the 8th grade,
68.
1968, we shared a music class together, ironically.
Right.
And I didn't know Eliot, but people were encouraged to bring in their favorite albums for a listening day in the music class, you know.
Wow. What'd you bring in?
I brought in Between the Buttons.
Stones.
And Eliot brought in Beggar's Banquet, as I recall.
Uh-oh.
And by the end of the class, we were buddies.
And everybody in the class was going, whoo, 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 whoo.
My sympathy for the devil. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great. That's great. Eliot and Jack, you both from Syracuse originally? Is that correct?
Well,
that area?
I was born in Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
Oh.
And I actually lived not too far from you guys. I was in White Plains, New York for a couple of years. And then pretty much then Syracuse.
What about you, Eliot?
I was born outside of the country. We moved around the country a bit and, eventually ended up in the Syracuse area for the, 20, 30 years in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So,
okay. So what was the impetus for you guys to start a band? What made you decide to do that?
We're meeting in the 8th grade and we're hanging out in 9th and 10th. And to be honest, at that point, we were not thinking in terms of being in a band or starting a band. We had this idea in our head way back then of making tapes, making music in Eliot's home studio.
Okay.
And the big goal, and we believed it way back then, was to, quote, get played on the radio. We were just enamored with getting played on the radio. That's what meant everything.
It did back then, that's for sure.
And as time went on, then we got into the band, and then we got into the Penetrators and whatnot. But the earliest driving force was to, we had no idea how we were going to do it, but to get played on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And half of the fun back then was just, playing down in the basement, in my folks' basement, and Jack would be there on the vocals. I'd be playing the guitar, and we'd be recording, or I'd record and then have him do the vocals later on. But yeah, half of the fun was just, messing around with the analog tape recorders that we used to use back then, reel to reels, if you will.
Now, you guys, I know we're gonna talk in a little while about some of the new stuff you have coming out that you've been working on. But back then, did you think you were gonna last this long, or really it just was get on the radio and call it a day, or what were you thinking? Like a career?
Well, I think we knew we'd always be friends. We got along very well, but no, we didn't. I don't know. Eliot, did you really project so far ahead with the music business?
All I know is I, really wanted to make it in the music industry at one point. And, it's been a long and torturous path, to say the least. But, the fact that we've been in the industry this long, maybe shows that we've got something to say.
I would say so. You've been doing it for over 40 years.
Yeah, that's a long time since what was it, 1976?
Yeah,
that's when we recorded our first track
single
that we released. Yep, and
right,
released a few years later.
Right now, most people that know you guys, and I'll tell you how I got familiar with you was the album Kings of Basement Rock. Okay, which is still, I think, one of the best of the genre. Okay, I mean, you guys. Before we talk about that record, you guys kind of fit in different categories, but at the same time, you don't fit in any category. You're kind of like garage rock, punk rock, kind of mix of the both. I just call it rock and roll. If it's good, I call it rock and roll. I'm sure you'll agree, right?
Yeah, but a lot of people call them a garage band. They're very and if you look at the catalog, they're garage band, but they also got them in punk. So it's like.
And proto-punk. Don't forget proto-punk.
Yeah.
So we get thrown in with the Ramones and Iggy Pop and those guys, the Velvet Underground.
Yeah.
And I'd say our evolution, it's been along the Velvet Underground, Lou Reed train of evolution, if you will.
Sure.
Our first stuff, was very much like that early Velvet Underground stuff and very much garagey. And, as we've progressed, we've taken on some more professional edges that some would say that Lou Reed later took on in his career on the rock and roll animal approach that he took. So, we've been evolving quite a bit over the last 20, 40 years or so.
I would say so. I'd say you've gone in a more hard rock direction. Okay. I did check out the 2 tracks you sent me. That was Treat You Right and Time Is Mine, the Sonny Vincent cover. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But, I mean, that stuff is different than what you did, Basement Rock album. That one. I would say it's a different kind of sound. But it's all good. I mean, it is an evolution, and I see the process that you guys have. Let's talk a little bit about Kings of Basement Rock. What do you remember about recording that record?
Oh, great sessions that we had. Basically, I would do the rhythm tracks, and then I would have Jack come over and do the lead vocals. That was the very first session in August of 76. And we'd always have plenty of iced tea before going into the studio, because that was my beverage of choice at the time.
Right.
Jack likes to talk about that. I mean, we got some lyrics where he's talking about me stirring the tea and writing.
Stirring the tea. I always thought you were talking about something a little different.
Yeah, people wonder about that, don't they? Jeez, that's really taken on a whole new tone this latest era here. So, but
when you hear tea, you think something else. That's funny.
Exactly. So we, basically just singing our hearts out in the basement. We that first session we did "It's My Life" by the Animals. And then we did Gotta Have Her. So, those were the first 2 songs that we committed to tape as the Penetrators, if you will.
Jack, I think you said that Eric Burden is like one of your favorite singers or your favorite singer.
Eric Burden is my number one favorite singer.
From the Animals. It's not.
The
I thought of that
Animals.
with the "It's My Life" cover you just mentioned, Eliot.
For sure. Eric, I like several singers a lot.
Uh-oh.
It's okay.
To meet him in Lowell, Massachusetts. I got his autograph there. I got to hang with him around 5 minutes, and
Cool.
I've seen him 3 times, and he's my guy. And,
I would say if I had to pick as far as like voices, male voices of the '60s, it would be a toss up between him and Jagger.
there you go.
You know,
There you go.
it depends on the day of the week, but either one of them, I would say are probably the best.
The Eggman.
I would agree. The Eggman, exactly.
You know that story? You know that story?
Eric Burden is the Eggman in I Am the Walrus.
Right.
Yeah.
You know that story. Okay. All right. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Do you know it, Eliot? The story?
That's the first I've heard it. I thought I'd heard all these Beatles.
I'll tell you. You want me to tell it, Jack? I'll tell it.
It's a good story. Tell it.
Well, the reason he's called the Eggman is one day, one evening, he took a very beautiful Jamaican lady home. Okay. And in the morning, she was cooking him eggs. He woke up and she was cooking him eggs in the kitchen. And he came in and romantically came up behind her, and she turned around and broke eggs on him and had her own breakfast. Let's put it that way. Okay. So he told this story to John Lennon. Eric tells it to John Lennon, and Lennon cracks up and he's like, "From now on, you're the Eggman." And that's why he's mentioned in that song.
That's it. Great story.
Yeah. I've told it maybe 2 or 3 times on the show, but it's a good one. So
I only heard that like a year ago myself, and I forget where. But good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. What I want to ask you guys is, what are some of the biggest differences? I'll let Spike answer this. What are some of the biggest differences recording then and recording now, other than just the fact things are digital and you could be in different places? But how do you feel about the process now compared to then?
I like the process now a lot better because I used to have to make sure everything was perfect. If I didn't get it right or the volume was screwed up, and tape would lose fidelity, would lose treble, and would lose volume as you ran it over and over. I'd have to be meticulous about cleaning the tape heads every take or two. And if I knew that I was going to do a good take, then I made sure to clean the tape heads right before I did the take. So you don't have to worry about the tape heads being clean, with all this digital stuff. So yeah, it makes life a lot easier, and you can pack more tracks on a song. You can also not have to worry about the loss of sound quality, because bouncing back and forth between tape recorders. I mean, this is how Phil Spector did it back in the early 60s. Basically running a track and then recording on another tape recorder at the same time as you were, listening to what was on the previous tape recorder. That was the earliest part. I mean, we evolved from 2 stereo tape recorders to a 4-track and a 2-track. Eventually it got the first 8-track in the early 80s, and went to DAT in the 80s and 90s, and then found actually really got into DAT in the 2000s, picking up a whole bunch of used ones from other people.
Yeah.
Tying in the computer with an optical link to those DAT machines, controlling all 3 of them at once, and doing our first 24-track recording in the early 2000s. But Yeah, there was a certain spontaneity that was fun, with working with those reel-to-reel tapes. You really had to be on top of your game and make sure everything was perfect, or you could live with whatever the take was at the time. So yeah, it was very different, to say the least.
Now, one guy that I'm in touch with a lot that I think is great is Greg Prevost. He was the singer to the Chesterfield Kings. Kind of up in your neck of the woods, Rochester. You guys are familiar with him, right?
We know Greg. Yeah.
Yeah. Greg's a good guy. One thing that he does is he looks to record in a more primitive way. He tries to find studios that have, older kind of equipment. Okay, I know Jack White from the White Stripes records that way too. Just to get some of what used to get bleed over, right? Sometimes with the older equipment, and to get that more older sound, people are actually looking for studios like this. They're rejecting all this new stuff, which is interesting. I mean, to me, I think it's interesting to record a record that way now compared to, doing it the easy way. But I guess
they got plugins that'll let you simulate that stuff too, which
okay.
if you really want to, sound analog, they've got tape simulators. They've got all that stuff now. Because everybody wants to have that authentic sound of that previous bygone era. So that's
one thing to keep in mind as far as these new recordings go. Eliot lives in Boston, and I live here in Syracuse. And Mike, I talked to you the other day about Mark Doyle. He lives in Syracuse too.
Yep.
And basically.
Yep.
Eliot's able to lay down drums, bass, guitars, vocals, whatever in Boston, and just ships it over
right to you.
Doyle Studio. And
I call it pre-production.
Cool.
And we're getting some great sound, and it's empowering us geographically to get all this done. We at least at this juncture of things, that helps us to actually make all this happen still.
Okay. All right. I'd like to take a short commercial break, pay some bills, and we'll be right back in a minute with Jack and Spike from the Penetrators.
Cool. Hey, how you doing?
How's the book coming along?
It's
I didn't know
doing
you
good.
could read.
Yeah, I can read. I can write too.
Rob,
man.
what's the matter, buddy?
I have a terrible toothache. It's been hurting me for like a few days now, and I don't know what to do, man. I really need a dentist bad.
Yeah, I got a guy for you.
You got a guy?
I got a guy for you, yeah. I've been going to this guy for over 25 years. They're called Park Dental Care.
Okay.
12419 101st Avenue in Richmond Hill, Queens.
Okay.
Right? They got a phone number, 718-847-3800. And their website is 718dentists.com. 718dentists.
All right. What's the information again that so I could get it?
It's Park Dental Care, 12419 101st Avenue in Richmond Hill, Queens. Number is 718-847-3800. The website is 718dentists.com.
Sounds good. Oh, man. Well, I need to go there as soon as possible.
No free shot for that information?
No free shot.
Come on, man.
Give me a shot.
Welcome back, everybody, to the RockerMike and Rob Presents show. We've got Jack and Spike from the Penetrators. We were talking about their 45-year career that they've had, and we're going to talk about some new stuff. Now, you mentioned before the break, Jack, Mark Doyle, your collaboration with him. For those who don't know, I honestly, when I think of Mark Doyle, I know he's been around with a lot of people. He's worked with, Bryan Adams and Meatloaf and Judy Collins and, very diverse group of people. But he was in a band in the early 70s called Jukin' Bone.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
That it's funny that when you told me that he was collaborating with you, I had it in the back of my head and I couldn't remember the name of the band. And I looked it up, and they had 2 records in the early 70s that came out. That one was called Whiskey Woman and one called Way Down East. And I think Way Down East is the better one out of the 2, just my opinion. But Cream magazine years ago had talked about these, saying that they were like 2 of the seminal records of the early 70s that everybody needed to hear. So this is a guy who's been around for 50 years. He was a teenager when he made those records, right?
Exactly.
He's got a few years on us, so it's kind of nice to have someone who's, a senior figure. I mean, if you can think of someone even older than us.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up Jukin' Bone, and I'm so glad you brought up their 2 albums, but I can't overemphasize how big an influence they were
Really?
on us and virtually everybody in the Central New York era. They were the band. They were on the national label, RCA.
Right.
I'm sure Eliot would agree. Joe Whiting, the singer, and Mark Doyle,
we can't say enough for those guys.
We can't say enough. They went out to
they helped us at some very crucial times in our early history of performing. They were supporters, even back in the 70s for just making sure that
I play those to this day. I play those 2 albums all the time.
Yeah.
I see Mark every now and then. I keep in touch with Joe. They were a big influence on us and everybody in the area. That's for sure. I'm so glad you dug that up, Mike.
Yeah, everybody should check them out. They're an interesting band and around only for a short time, really, just, around 72, 73, right?
Like 4 or 5 years. They continued after for a short period of time, but basically they used to be called Free Will, and then they turned into Jukin' Bone. And then they went their separate ways and had solo bands, but they still get together for reunions and stuff, and they're very big in the Central New York area.
Is Mark playing guitar for you, or? I'm sorry.
One quick note. I sent you "Time Is Mine" by Sonny Vincent.
Yes.
But I also sent you a second song called "Treat You Right."
Treat You Right.
I dug both of them. While we're on the topic, "Treat You Right" was, a free will song. Free Will was the name of Jukin' Bone before RCA changed it to Jukin' Bone. But, with Mark's blessing and everything, we covered Treat You Right from the old Free Will tapes. So, we just love those guys. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Not at all. Not at all. I was going to ask what the collaboration with Mark is he just playing guitar? Is he producing too? What is he doing?
Mark has a very big input, actually. We've been working with him since 2000 as an actual, collaborator on our recordings. 2000 was the first session. We released Bad Woman in 2008 with him all over it.
Right.
Guitar especially, and as we've worked with him more and more, he's taken on more of a co-producer aspect also. So he does the leads. We're using his studio. He records Jack's vocals and his lead guitars, and basically, I consider him. I'm the producer, and he's my co-producer. He's my eyes and ears in that studio when I'm not there. So it's been a great working relationship to work with him.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it. Actually, we should contact Mark. Maybe he'd want to be on the podcast sometime too. Interesting man. What do you think, Rob?
I'll
Yeah,
send
we
you
should call him.
his email after the show. How's that?
That would be great. That would be great.
'Cause we
So-
had Vincent like twice, right, on the show so far?
Who, Sonny?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sonny we've had on 2 or 3 times. I think twice.
Oh, yeah?
I think twice. Yeah, I think twice. And speaking of Sonny, I just want to give him a shout out because I'm wearing a shirt that he just sent me today in the mail.
Excellent.
He's got a bunch of swag. I'll just give him a shout out quick. Get this, okay? And he's even a keychain, even a Sonny Vincent keychain. How cool is that?
Wow.
Okay,
That's seriously cool.
buttons, all kinds of stuff he sent me, stickers. So you guys are covering this great Sonny Vincent song, "Time Is Mine." What I wanted to ask you now is the live shows. Okay, do you have anything planned coming up? I know COVID put a nix on a lot of things, but do you have a band together to go live?
Well, we just the other day we've been having talks, Eliot and I don't, when COVID runs its course there, yeah, we want to put a band together. Basically, our idea of a band, so long as Jack's doing the singing and Eliot's on guitar, it's the Penetrators, and
Yep.
whoever we can get at that point, that's who we run with.
And
A
we've
lot of
definitely-
times we'll get invited into situations where people have a band already and they'll bring us into town. They'll know the songs, and at the last minute we'll get up there and do the tunes with them.
we call that doing the Chuck Berry routine.
You'll just pick up people in different towns, right? That kind of thing.
And the
Exactly,
band will know all our songs, and they'll be fans of ours. So
That's what Chuck Berry used to do. He never had a band. When he came into town, he made a few calls ahead of time, and people would just they'd line up to play for him. You know?
Exactly.
It's nice when you got that kind of loyalty. You can just say, "Hey guys, you want to be the band for our show tonight?" And they say, "Yeah, we'd love it."
And with Chuck, it was about not having to pay him too much either.
Generally not.
Funny. So, why did you pick these 2 tracks? Is it just your favorite stuff to do Sonny Vincent, to do Mark, or did you have some others in mind? Do you have any originals coming out soon?
Well, we're looking to put together a 12-song album, and quite honestly, those are the only 2 covers we're planning. All the rest will be originals.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
I guess, Mike, I sent you those 2 songs, and that I don't know. I think they both have a lot of potential. They both really rock. They're 2 of the higher level rockers per se that we're doing, and particularly "Time Is Mine" in particular just been blowing people away where whoever hears it, and I think those 2 songs just have so much potential. I sent them to you before we even knew that we were going to be on your show for sure.
Yeah, I remember.
Just trying to get that music out, get those songs out there. I believe in them.
No, and they're great. And I mean, in general, your whole collection. I mean, I've never heard a bad song from you guys. Okay, just honestly.
A lot of songs.
No, you got. I mean, "Bad Woman's" a good record. Legacy. You got the Basement Anthology. I know that came out in 2005, and Entertainment Weekly gave it like an A+ rating or A- rating, something like that. Fantastic. That's a national paper that recognized you guys. National magazine.
That's something that makes us very happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were very happy to have that CD come out when it did. That was John Rice of Swami Records and Rocket from the Crypt, I believe it is.
Right.
It's quite the helpful thing to have come out. Because right about that same time there was a lot of interest in garage bands from the 70s. And he also put out a CD of the Testers, or not just the Testers, but Crime.
Crime. Yeah.
That was the other one that came out.
Crime is one of the best bands from the West Coast scene in the 70s. They don't get a lot of recognition, and they didn't really put out a lot of material. So it's kind of, when you hear about Crime, there's just a couple of songs that come to mind. But they were one of these bands that should have been a lot bigger, my opinion.
Sure.
Hey,
definitely.
You guys know that Cream magazine is getting relaunched. You know that, right?
I hope so. I miss them. I miss Lester Bangs, to say the least.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah,
best rock critic ever.
Relaunch, but I don't know if they're going to make a magazine or it's going to be a website. But there is a relaunch.
Oh wow, that's excellent.
There was a very cool documentary about Cream magazine that came out maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, if I remember right. And it talked about Lester and everybody and the whole how that magazine got started. I grew up as a kid that I couldn't wait for the next issue to come out. Between Cream and rock scene, in the late 70s when I was starting to get into music and kind of understanding how it all was this one big thing, and in the magazines, you'd see what's so great when you look at those old magazines, like Kiss, okay? They were wearing the makeup, but there would always be pictures of them without the makeup, but their backs turned or something like that. And when you look at these magazines, you go, wow, that could never happen today. There wouldn't be one magazine that would go along with that whole shtick of nobody knowing what they look like. Somebody would reveal it, right?
Oh,
today.
yeah, of course.
You could never do that.
Another magazine I fondly remember from that same era was called Trouser Press.
Trouser Press, Ira Robbins, right?
That was great also.
Yeah. There
Rock
was one
Scene magazine.
Yes.
Which we were featured in.
Rock Scene.
Yep. So there's a nice picture of us right next to G.G. Allen and the Jabbers.
I'm pretty sure Trouser Press reviewed Teenage Lifestyle.
Probably did the single, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a great magazine too.
Yeah. One of my favorite magazine covers ever was from Trouser Press. The one with Joey Ramone with the birthday cake, and he's like this with a fork and a knife. Did you ever see that? That's great.
Sounds good.
Yeah, very cool. The classic cover. I think it was around 83, 84 they had that cover.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So, I want to thank you guys for being on. And before we go, what's the best way to reach you guys? You have on social media, email, anything like that you want to give out?
Eliot?
They just do a search for Spike Penetrator or the Penetrators on Facebook. They'll find us. And we have an audius.com website that has all the latest tracks from the upcoming CD that we're planning. There's actually 3 songs that are originals besides the 2 songs we've been talking about. So we have 5 out of 6 that we've recorded up to now, and we hope to finish the CD sometime soon. But just do a search for Spike Penetrator or the Penetrators, and you're bound to find us, especially if you know the songs.
Eliot, what about going to fredrecords.com?
www.fredrecords.com, all one word. There you go.
There you go.
It's kind of a historical oversight website, and
I got it right here. They got a lot of your information.
Exactly. That's a good site, fredrecords.com.
We have a little wiki there, as well as links to all our releases and our eBay store. I mean, we're all over the place on social media. So.
And, for people on Facebook, Jack Lipton and Eliot Kagan, love to hear from you.
Yeah, cool. And I just want to tell you guys, when you do get a band together and you come down to New York, we're gonna hook you up. We're gonna promote you. We're going to put it out on all that you hear. Come see the Penetrators. You can come down to International Bar where Mr. Rossi works. We'll hook you up. We'll have a good time.
Well,
Excellent.
I can't thank you enough. That's a great idea. And in recent years, I would love to go down for a weekend, maybe do one night in Brooklyn and then one night in Manhattan, or really do it up nice. And we certainly would like to work through you guys. Yes.
Definitely. You're more than welcome. So keep in touch with us. Let us know what you're doing. All right. When this record comes out, we're going to talk about it. I'll review it. We'll have you guys back again if you like.
Oh, wow.
You know, anything you want. Okay.
Hey, let me ask you guys.
Fantastic. Just one last word. I want to thank you again for putting us in touch with Dennis Tuning.
Nice.
And looks like, sounds to me like he's going to be putting out Time Is Mine, our version,
Right.
on a new label he's starting. And we just found out this afternoon he's also planning on making a video of Time Is Mine. And Mike, without you connecting all the dots, we would have never gotten in touch with him. So thanks there.
You're very welcome. I'm glad it all worked out.
Good job, Mike.
Well, maybe I got another career on the verge here. Maybe.
So, let me ask you guys, do you guys have like a date you want the album done by and released? Do you have a date in mind or anything like that?
Well, it's funny because we're working every so often on the different stages in the studio, but hopefully by the end of the year we should have something for the people.
Definitely. You know, Eliot.
Yep. But
for things, so we got to take him into the process a little bit too here. He just made a couple new suggestions today, so we'll see where it goes. But we'll get it out to you. Yeah.
Just keep working on it.
Yep. All right, guys. So thank you very much for coming on the RockerMike and Rob Presents show. The Penetrators, Jack and Eliot. Thank you so much. Yep. Have a good one. All right. We'll be in touch with you soon. You take care now.
Take care. Yep.
Have a good one, guys. Have a good day.
Yep.